Our bodies are music, right? Our hearts are pumping songs and dancing and music through our veins. Our lives are songs, right? From our first breath to our last. Every person we meet is a new verse, and every obstacle we overcome is a new chorus, right? And so when we are able to look at it from that perspective as music therapists, my job is to go in and help make that song beautiful. It's not supposed to be a happy song. It's not supposed to be a sad song. It's not supposed to be a heavy song, which it might be, but I need to do everything in my power to support my clients where they're at and make their song as beautiful in that moment as it needs to be.
Welcome to Malpractice Podcast.
Are you ready to get started?
I was like, is it me? Every time.
I think it's me, right?
I think so.
Listen,
I don't know.
a tighter run ship would figure these things out beforehand, but that's not the kind of ship that we're on.
I don't want to be on that ship. Sounds like a stressful ship.
Yeah, that's a boring ship. Full of people
Full of responsibilities. Fuck that ship.
Full of people who plan things.
I would say we plan, right?
There are things that we
have a structure.
There are straight up things that we have to plan the absolute shit out of. Like interviews and stories.
Yeah, like this episode.
Correct. We plan down to a T. We do lots of scheduling. And then sometimes, things are just free flow. Like, I said something about baseball in last week's episode. Apparently, first base is not a hard position, comparatively. Like, they put the big guys who are slow at first base. And you asked me, was it a hard position to play? And I was like, yeah, I think it's, really hard.
You're like, for me, it would be super hard.
Because I think baseball is, pretty hard in general. And Eric was like, no, that's, one of the easier positions. And I was like, okay, well, welcome to our baseball podcast.
Okay, baseball police.
Welcome to our baseball podcast, sponsored by Eric, our chief baseball content manager.
Literally, if you are a super big baseball fan and you didn't let us know that we were wrong, shout out to you.
Shout
honestly,
out to you.
Because we don't want the feedback.
We really prefer not to get those emails, if I'm being honest.
Eric must not know that we don't want feedback, which is weird, because I feel like he should know.
He does know. We like our feedback pleasant or not at all, and those are the only two ways.
Nice feedback only.
Yeah.
Only the positive things.
Speaking of
negative things.
What?
Oh. No, tell me about baseball, because mine has nothing to do. It was about to be one of those smooth transitions.
Smooth transition. Speaking of baseball, Eric and I went to batting cages this weekend, and I am very bad at it.
Yeah, that shit is hard as...
I played tennis in high school, and I still play tennis. I could be good at...
It's totally different.
Unfortunately, it's very different. Yeah. The bat is... They don't tell you this. Very small and heavy.
Yes.
The surface that you have to use to hit things with it is very small. I was sore from swinging and missing a lot.
Yeah, because you swing really hard. No, it's hard.
Yeah.
When I played softball...
Just played softball, you guys. She knows.
Listen, let me tell you something about me playing softball. I show up to tryouts.
Tell me about it.
No glove.
What?
We don't have a glove.
Oh, you didn't bring a glove?
For softball.
Sure. Yeah.
I had on shin guards because, as you do.
You came from soccer.
And they were like, you don't need shin guards here. Took them off. Guess what my instinct told me to do?
A ball hit you right in the shin.
Stop a ball with my shin. Correct. And I did it. Yes.
Oh, I bet that hurt so bad.
It was not pleasant. And I looked at the coach. I said, you see?
Told you about these shin guards.
These shin guards they slap. They're the best.
They slap.
And then it's so hard to hit the ball that I was a bunter, which means you just basically bink the ball and then you
hold the ball out,
bust your ass to get to first base and hope that no one beats the shit out of you. That's what I always thought was going to happen on the way. Someone was going to just beat the shit out of me, throw the ball at me and hit me in the back of the head. I was so fucking scared.
First of all, getting hit in the head by a softball it's like serious damage, man.
Yes, I was always scared.
I am also always scared of being hit by a softball for no reason. A softball has never been near me besides when I went to the batting cages for 4 minutes. And I'm still scared of getting hit by a softball.
I have seen people, they like get hit and they like, hobble to the base and they run their base and then they like have a broken elbow.
No. If I have a broken elbow, you'd take me right out of that game.
You take me out of the world.
Out of my life.
Broken elbow?
Okay, wait, what negative thing were you going to say? There was a smooth transition for negativity.
Oh my God. Smooth transition. I was on TikTok as I am.
Sure.
And this girl was telling us, me, I don't know who else
fans,
was there.
her audience.
All of her followers. Yeah. She was like, basically, hey everyone, I'm starting it like a season of where I post things that should scare us about global warming that people don't think about readily.
No, I don't want to.
Yeah, I didn't want to, but I kept listening.
You have to.
And I didn't want it. And I was blah, 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 listening. And she said that our ice caps are melting.
Yes.
We knew this.
Right.
Frozen in the ice caps are diseases.
Bacteria and viruses. Yeah.
Yes.
I learned about this recently.
And scientists have tested them
Yeah.
on live cells.
They fucked them up.
And they're active. And they've zombied the fuck up and become like anthrax.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I can't. I won't. I refuse.
Yes. Short.
That ice melting is a big fuckaroo, too, because you know it's going to come for Houston. Houston's going to be like a real swamp returned to nature.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing here, y'all. But also, climate change is real. What are you doing? Also, I don't know. We're convincing our audience, and I'm pretty sure people who listen to our show probably believe in climate change, right?
I'm sorry. Just point of clarification. Yes. If you are listening to this podcast and you do not believe in global warming.
Also, do you know what I did? Another flawless. Oh, my name is Sydney.
My name is Jess.
And this is Malpractice Podcast. We're a podcast about baseball.
Global warming.
And global warming.
Imagine.
And I want to talk to you next about... for the first time in
forever,
maybe 5 years, I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich right before we started recording. Mm-hmm. That shit slaps so hard.
Yeah.
Have you had a PB&J lately?
No.
You're clowning on yourself. You need to get up in that PB&J life.
I love a sandwich that's actually dessert.
It is literally dessert, number one.
We'll get a PB&J.
100% it's dessert, A.
It is.
And B... it's a treat.
You know what I like is like raspberry jam.
Yep. I had blackberry jam on mine.
Yep.
I got like some nice bread, some like multi-grain bread, and I toasted it. And then I have this peanut butter that's made with honey instead of sugar. So it's like a natural, like healthier peanut butter, kind of.
Honey has a lot of sugar, everyone.
Well, yeah, it has a lot of sugar. But it's not like refined sugar.
Yeah. This is a better for you sugar.
Which
still
is
good.
Better? Whatever.
I will take any sugar. Refined.
Correct. Same.
Ratchet.
There's like a bumblebee on the label, and I was like, this is better. Whatever. And then I have that with blackberry jam. It's so
yummy.
Do. Oh, what else was I going to talk about? Oh, just here's one thing.
Oh, God.
If you listen to our show and you've left us a review,
we love
you so much.
I thought it was about to be like
literally love you.
Something bad about science or the world.
No, positive. It's positive. This is a positive turn.
Yeah.
Still random, but positive.
Smooth transition.
No transitions here. We just bob from one conversation to the next, and you gotta keep up, people. But also, if you left us a review, thank you so much, because we literally screenshot them and send them to each other, and then I cry. Like, it's so sweet.
We're like, look at this.
Someone loves us.
And then the other person's like, I've already seen it.
I've already seen it, and
I love it.
And I love it. And yeah. So if you've already done that, thank you so much. If you haven't, get your game together. Get your life right. Leave us a review.
Get your baseball together.
America's pastime. is listening to this podcast, not baseball.
I literally brought that up to Michelle after she listened to the last episode. I was like, did you think that was funny? She was like, sure. I was like, I think it's funny.
This is so weird, but I want to like watch people listen to the episode and like see when they laugh. Is that weird?
Yeah, I tried and make Michelle reenact the laugh that she did.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, how did you laugh? Were you like, heh? Or were you like, ah, ha, ha?
Yeah. Which one was it?
Never comes out right.
What is she?
It's always weird.
Does she do it?
I try it. Yeah, I mean, she's like, I was like, ha ha.
Okay. I just want to know the volume and like
time.
the tone. Was it like a?
Yeah, me too.
Was it like a? That's funny, or was it like you actually laughed?
Right.
Because it's one or the other. Can't be both.
Cannot. Shorn't. Won't be both. Wait, did you go see your mom?
When?
Or am I making that up?
Oh, she posted some picture on her Facebook, but it was from like a while ago.
I was like, dang, y'all be making trips.
No. Okay. Full disclosure. Pre-pandemic, just like right before the pandemic. This was in like, I'm going to say January of 2020. My mom and I, our last like pre-pandemic outing was we went to a Post Malone concert. Which, if there ever was a super spreader event,
yeah,
it was a Post Malone concert.
And if there ever was a Post Malone fan, it's your mom.
My mom owns Post Malone gear. Posty, it's Posty. She calls him Posty. Like they're best friends.
Why?
She thinks in her mind they are best friends. He had this service that you could text. You know what I'm talking about? It's like a fan thing that you can text.
Yeah.
And she texted. And she's like, Post Malone texted me back. And I was like, no, he did not.
She thought he did. Aww.
She was like, he texted me back. I was like, no, incorrect.
He didn't. But he should.
He would if he knew my mom.
Right.
Post Malone, if you ever hear this, shoot my mom a text.
Which, if Post Malone is listening to this podcast, we have fucking made it.
If Post Malone is listening to this, I quit my day job for 100%.
Down.
Right?
Down to clown.
That feels fair.
I feel like that's the rule. That is the law according to the rules.
Correct. I'll drop immediately out of school if Post Malone hears this. I won't even think twice.
Eric will listen to this and be like, bitch,
I'll
no.
take a screenshot of it and I'll send it to my boss and be like, I resign immediately.
I'm outie 5,000.
Effective immediately. Post Malone is my fan. So I'm out.
So
I think that speaks for itself, really.
I think it does. No, your mom's fucking cool.
So that picture that she posted this weekend on Facebook was from our pre-COVID Post Malone soiree.
Oh, soiree now. Okay.
Yeah. She got turned up at his concert and I had to drive home.
Sounds like your bachelorette party.
Correct, it does. She's always here for a good time.
But you were also turned.
And a long
at
time.
That one.
At my bachelorette party, we had to leave because I sat
on the ground.
My butt touched the ground in New Orleans on Bourbon Street.
I said,
and I turned to Jessica.
Absolutely not. Absolutely no.
I turned to Jessica and I went, we have to go right now. And she was like, why? What happened? And I was like, my butt touched the street. And she was like, nope, get it together, people. Let's go. No more. We're out.
We're leaving. Butts on streets. This is disgusting.
Jessica got the first Uber out of there. What everyone doesn't know about Jess is that she is the mom, I'm going to say, of most groups.
Yeah.
And the night of my bachelorette party, the first night of my bachelorette party, Jessica took my contacts out of my eyes. If you don't know someone who you trust to reach into your eye.
Honestly, if we don't make...
Where only my eye doctor has been.
Correct. It's a scary endeavor, I will say.
Eric has never touched my eye. I would never let him touch my eye.
As someone who's touched your eye, it's very weird. Like, I don't think anyone should do it. Not just your eye specifically, but anybody's eye. It's a weird situation.
It's also a special bond. And I don't know where Eric's hands have been.
Oh, no. I washed my hands like 40 times. I was so scared.
You definitely did. Because I was too intoxicated.
Beer.
But not intoxicated enough that I didn't know they needed to come out.
Yeah. So, really, you were an adult.
Did you also wash my face for me?
Yes.
You did. That's a real ass bitch.
Dancing. Real ass bitch.
Did a little dance. She's doing a little dance. What
Okay.
else?
Is it time?
Yeah.
Drum roll.
Let's do it to it.
Please.
Brrrr.
Today.
That was my drum roll.
Thank you. That was very nice. Today we are interviewing a friend of the pod, Grant Howarth. Sydney and I have both known Grant Howarth for almost our entire lives.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Grant story?
I met Grant when we were in pre-K. When we were kids, we used to play Powerpuff Girls.
As you should.
So that's probably my favorite. What is your favorite Grant story?
I have so many because I met Grant when I was in 5th grade. And then I lived with him in college, right? So
yeah.
I know Grant, and Grant knows me. So we're not just interviewing Grant because we love him, though that's reason enough.
And we do.
Yeah, and we do. But he is a counselor and a bereavement coach. So I want to give you a bit of backstory for the listeners about him, and then we'll get started with share our interview with you. Grant went to Sam Houston State University for undergraduate, where he got a bachelor's of music and music therapy. And then he has a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling from Stephen F. Austin State University. Mm-hmm. He has been a bereavement coordinator for Heart Hospice for the last just over 5 years, is a community activist, an organizer, an empath with a true heart of gold, and an ally to literally all people.
Yeah.
He helped, I was on a committee with him to plan a lavender prom for LGBT plus students in Nacogdoches. Mm-hmm. We did a unity festival together in Nacogdoches. We be doing the most, and mostly it's Grant, and I'm just yeah, we should probably be good people, and he's I am a good person, and that's just the situation.
Right.
We are so excited to speak with him today and talk about mental health and his experience in the therapy space, mm-hmm. And to share his insight and his joy with you. So welcome, Grant.
Welcome, Grant.
Hello. Hi.
Oh my gosh, he
Hi,
has
how
such
are
a
you?
calming voice, right?
You do.
Oh my gosh.
You have a very calming voice and presence, in all honesty.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
This is a podcast where we get our friends to join, and then we hype them up the entire time.
I'm so ready. I've been looking forward to this, ladies. I'm so ready.
Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you love?
Yes. I love sincerely, right? Mm-hmm. I have a cat. He's 10 years old. He was a foster cat. I adopted him. His name is Kovu. He's a Maine Coon. Mm-hmm. He weighs 20 something pounds. He's a big boy.
Oh Not God. A podcast about Kovu, because I'll join that one too.
Oh my gosh, I'll start it. His handle, or his hashtag on Instagram is Kovu Diaries, if you want to follow along.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
Product placement. I love board games, long walks on the beach. Mm-hmm. Is this no, I'm just kidding. I don't like the beach.
You don't?
No. Standing in the mud, getting slapped in the face by salt water.
Oh, wow. That interpretation of beach is just rocked my world. I'll never be the same.
Correct. Yeah.
I love the beach.
You'll never be happy again. I'm so glad. I
love the ocean, but the beach, I get it.
Period. Yeah, so I love in my free time, I love board games, hang out with my people, my family, my nieces and nephews. Oh my gosh, we call them sib kids, siblings kids, my sib kids. Love them, adorable. Adore them. I love community activism. I love educating other people. I love being present with other people in so many different ways and spaces and formats, and however I can consume people.
Wow. Well, just made me feel like a trash human being.
Beautiful.
I would have been I love Oreos, my dog, and my wife.
I like pizza and 4 people.
Honestly,
yeah.
Staples.
Yeah. Tell us more about your job and exactly what a typical day looks like, if that's possible.
So I am a board certified music therapist and a licensed professional counselor associate. Currently, I work full-time for a local hospice organization, and I'm the music therapist and bereavement coordinator. So for music therapy is I define it as the personalized use of music to achieve holistic therapeutic goals for an individual, group, family, or community. So I just use different aspects of music to help impact people on a micro and a macro basis. And then as the bereavement coordinator, I take over after the family member passes away, and I'm there for at least 13 months to support the survivors, if you will. So any family members or close friends who were involved in the care and need just a little extra support. And then I work contract for a private counseling clinic here in town, seeing just a wide array of clientele.
Why did you choose music therapy?
That's a great question. So I was diagnosed with epilepsy in high school, and it was a long process to get that diagnosis. And so I was in and out of the hospital and trying to get assessments and tests and yada, yada. And so a friend of ours, was looking into music therapy at the time and started telling me about it. So I started looking into it, and then I saw the firsthand power of what music could do to help people and support people. And I was like, that's it. That's it. I love music and I love people, right? So how do I make those two fit? Music therapy.
And why did you choose clinical mental health counseling?
Yeah, that's always kind of been on the radar, right? It was either that or being a veterinarian, and this involves
Fair.
a lot less blood. So
blood.
Not zero, right? But a lot less. It just kind of, as I was working as within the hospice realm, I was like, I want to go deeper. I want to be able to dig in, and I want to be able to support people even better. So how do I do that?
And you were already doing some of that work, right? Like, I think you told me, like, in your master's, you were like, I already know.
Yeah.
Like, you just you have an innate ability to have conversations with people that they leave better from. So, small plug for Grant. And then B, you just have been doing that work anyway. So you were able to really get hands on things right away.
I was able to really use and utilize those things that I had been learning in my program and use them in impactful ways. Obviously, I couldn't practice counseling yet,
right.
But I was able to really integrate some of those more foundational things in my work as a music therapist as I continued my training in counseling.
So funny you say you didn't practice counseling, but you like definitely counsel people all the time.
Like as part of who you are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, as a human, you're like, I'm Grant. I am a certified human counselor and things.
Hello, let's be present together.
Yeah, literally.
Also, Jess and I are both, we're super pro therapy and counseling. What would you say is something that you see as an indication that someone might benefit from therapy?
Yes. Are you breathing?
Right.
Great. Counseling. I think that a lot of people don't understand necessarily the breadth of counseling. I think that some people see it as like a last ditch effort to, well, I've tried the pills, I've tried friends, I've tried whatever. Yeah. I've tried Netflix on the weekends. But we've all been there. It's fine.
Who among us?
But counseling can really get in and help you at any point, right? Are you just struggling to adjust to a new job or a new living location? Are you feeling like you're doing great, but you have a history of some repression or some trauma or some stuff, or you don't have any of that stuff, which is probably unlikely. But you are just wanting to kind of reset, refocus, and re-engage with life in a different way. Yeah. We're all trained in career counseling. We're all trained to work with all ages of life. From the beginning to the end. So it just kind of, it's for everyone. And I know I'm a little biased, but I'm sincere when I say counseling can benefit anyone at any walk of life at any time.
Totally agree. I saw something the other day that was like, people in therapy are in therapy to deal with the people in their lives who won't go to therapy. And I feel like I've never heard a truer statement.
Literally.
Yes. I've been in therapy since I was like 19. Yeah. and just because sometimes you just need to check in with somebody. I mean, yeah, I've been through some shit, but like sometimes you just need a little support.
Right.
Yeah. And so say we have a listener who's like a therapy counseling novice, like what advice would you give them they're interested maybe, or like they're not sure how to start, they've been thinking about this?
My first recommendation is always psychologytoday.com. You can put in your zip code and it tells you certified therapists in your area. So you can start looking through to see who serves what population. It gives their bio, so it tells you kind of how they practice, what their philosophies on life are, how they want to help serve their clients. So you can kind of get a good base understanding of who the counselor is. And then if you give them a call for an intake, you can ask whatever questions you need. There is a power dynamic in counseling, I think, that a lot of people also don't talk about.
Yeah.
And so
we love acknowledgement of a power dynamic, please.
Yes, we love it, right?
Yeah.
So in any care profession, right, the clinician is going to have a certain level of power. And so that can be really intimidating for clients, especially before even an intake, right? Before that first consultation or that first communication. So I just encourage people as they're getting started to not be afraid to ask those hard questions and to find someone who will benefit them. I can't tell you how many clients I've had who have been like, well, I've had somebody in the past, but it just didn't feel right.
Right.
Or even I was talking to a friend last week. It was just I happened to run into someone at a coffee shop and she was like, yeah, I think I'm going to fire my therapist. And I was like, okay, tell me about that. And please. And she told me there was a miscommunication, and it was a big miscommunication. Right. But I knew that they had been working with this therapist for so long, and I didn't want her to throw that away because of a miscommunication that she felt she couldn't attend to or to address. Yeah. So I just empower people to, and I hope that she's able to have that conversation, because me as a therapist, please tell me when I've up, right? Yeah. Please tell me when I've messed up, or I'm not supporting you in ways that you need to be supported. Yeah. So Psychology Today, and empower yourself to ask those questions that you need and to make your needs known.
What you're saying, I guess, is to like keep an open rhetoric with your counselor and make them understand exactly what it is that you need. Like advocate for yourself, basically, right?
Informed consent goes both ways, and it should be continuous throughout your process together.
Yeah, that's a great point.
If you were to appear on Psychology Today, what would your profile be of like, who would you love to be, what communities would you love to be serving? What change would you love to be making? What would your profile be?
Yeah, so I should be on Psychology Today in like a week or two.
Hopefully. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone check Grant out.
Oh my gosh, look for me.
Are you a cool kid or what?
I hope so. I just have to get my picture taken.
That's
so official.
I know. So I really want to work with the LGBTQIA2+ community. That's always been a passion of mine. I've done some like community work and organization around that community. So I want to be able to better support them through therapy. I definitely, because of my years in hospice and bereavement, I specialize in grief and loss. And just like the basic mental health stuff that we all kind of deal with on various levels and in various ways. The counselor I work under now is a trauma-informed counselor. And so we really hit the ground running with trauma-informed care. And so I'm really excited to really dig my heels into that side of the practice and to help some people with some ingrained and maybe some fresh traumas.
Can you talk a little bit about what trauma-informed care looks like from the perspective of a counselor?
It's hard, it's nitty, it's gritty, right? It gets into the the meat and potatoes of the stuff, if you will. It's not about dealing with the side effects and the symptoms, right? So we might often, after experience a trauma, we might have that detachment, or we might have anxiety or depression or all these things, but those are symptoms of the rooted trauma, maybe PTSD, complicated traumas. And so we're going to be refocusing on the, from my perspective as a newly working on trauma-informed specialist, right? I work within the narrative realm of things. So I give space for people to share their story and to go from the beginning to end. And we really have to and this is uncomfortable and it's scary and it's terrifying, but we have to go through and figure out the what was engaging with your 5 senses as this was happening, what was engaging in your body, and what was your body telling you, where are you holding that in your body now? So it's about digging into that fear and the trauma and the hurt and the past and the pain, and helping our bodies reconnect. Because that's when trauma happens, our brains immediately disconnect, right? Our prefrontal medial cortex, that just stops, right? We can't connect with our hippocampus and the amygdala and all these things, right? And so we're trying to retrain the brain to connect and process appropriately.
That's so cool.
Wow. Nothing easy there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, great. So
everybody take a deep breath.
Yeah, I know. My God. I'm like, oh, that sounds like...
Yeah, I guess we should have like a, not a trigger warning, but like a content warning, right?
Yeah, maybe so.
Grief and loss, trauma, it's heavy, right?
Yeah.
So if this podcast affects you negatively today, seek out a counselor.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One early indicator. Also, seek out a counselor in general. If you're not already.
Just in general.
Yeah.
Grant says you should already be talking to someone.
Yeah. What would Grant do?
My professional advice.
So let's get into that a little, if you don't mind. I want to talk to you a little bit about loss, because you work as a bereavement coordinator. And most people have experienced loss in their lives, so they'll appreciate, I think, your perspective on this. What is it that you do exactly in that role?
Our hospice practice is to follow the families for at least 13 months after the death. So I take the primary contact and find out anyone else in the family who needs the support. I do my initial assessment, and then create a care plan based on the client's needs, which generally involves newsletters and letters related to different steps of grief and loss. Steps, circular, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just a loop. And then I make semi-regular phone calls out to the patient, and then make visits as needed. And then for some families, I set up weekly either family sessions or weekly one-on-ones, and just kind of tailor the needs directly to the client and the loved ones.
Yeah. And what is a session with the family members? Like, what does that typically look like?
It really just depends on what we're working on. With music therapy, I always, even as a counselor, right, I'm still going to be pulling music into my sessions, because I know the power of music, and I know just how it can affect people. So generally I'll start off with just kind of a check-in, seeing where everyone's at, what's on your heart, what's on your mind, where are we at today? And then seeing if there are any family dynamics that we need to process through. And then within our first two sessions, we've already established family goals. And so we're going to kind of check in and see if everyone completed any homework that was assigned, homework for therapy, beware, any homework that was assigned, or any practices that they needed to work on, check to see how that went for them. Then kind of just where are we at? What are we dealing with today? What's our grief look like? What are we holding today?
Hospice is a great place to have like bereavement specialists, but like life, right? I think anytime like someone loses someone, bereavement specialists should be dispatched to go. It's so, I have just seen a bunch of different people in my life dealing with loss and at different degrees, and they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know what to ask for.
Yeah.
I mean, I just really think bereavement specialists in the world should be like a community kind of person, like a social worker, like in our communities, in our schools, in our hospitals, in like job places, like certain places of employment should have bereavement specialists like contracted to come in. Like that should just be standard.
Your lips to the government's ears.
I would love
write a letter
to the government's
to your
ears.
senator.
They would not love that for me.
Golly.
My senator gets regular emails and letters and texts and phone calls from me.
Yes. They're like, oh shit, this guy's calling
Yup.
Again,
Same
yeah.
old, same old.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the music therapy side.
Yeah.
Music can change people's lives. So
Yes.
how has your love of music affected your life, and how have you used music therapy to help your clients and patients?
Every time I talk about music therapy, I always want to talk about, well, I say every time, within the last few years, Regina Spektor, bless her, came out with a song called Firewood, and I won't sing it because copyright. But
yeah, we can't afford it, but yes.
I know. I'm like, wait, maybe don't do that, but I want to, but I won't.
We sing things all the time here.
I think you could sing less than 3 seconds of it and we don't have to pay for it.
That is not true.
Oh, shit.
It's not true.
We're getting sued post-haste.
Post-haste.
So quick. No, you should be fine. But anyway, she has a song called Firewood. And the song, it starts off by saying the piano is not firewood yet. They try to remember, but still they forget that the heart beats in 3 just like a waltz. Nothing can keep you from dancing.
Aww.
And to me, when I heard it, I was like, oh, that's it. So what do I do with music therapy?
Yes.
Music therapists, first of all, can work in almost any population, right? So music therapists are in schools working with children with autism, ADHD, working in mental health with bipolar, schizophrenia, any kind of mental health diagnosis. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, traumatic brain injuries, hospitals, wherever you can think of, pretty much a music therapist can be.
Mm-hmm.
In hospice, with my hospice clients, I help them maybe like write a song to leave behind for their loved one, create a playlist.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do.
I love that.
Create playlists that represent different parts of their lives. Help them with some limited range of motion for comfort. Because like, if I tell you to like tap my hand, okay, great. If I put a tambourine here and you start playing that tambourine, then you're doing your movements, you're doing that gross motor and you're doing the fine motor with the tapping, but we're making music while we're doing it. So it sends a little extra receptory things.
Little incentive.
Sometimes we are silent, right? Because silence is a part of
Yeah.
music. Sometimes we just need to exist in space with each other. Right? Sometimes I just need to go in and hold a patient's hand because that's where they're at that day. Yeah.
What they need.
Sometimes I'll do receptive music where I play instrumental or I play some favorite music so that they can just sit and relax. Sometimes we sing together. Sometimes we breathe together. We work on deep breathing exercises. And then on the bereavement side of things, I'll generally we call it lyric analysis. And so I'll bring in a song that is closely related to their experience and what they're going through, so that they can talk about the song. Oh, well, I think that they were talking about this and this during this part of this song. I was like, oh yeah, tell me how that relates to you. Right? So we can kind of dig in, because it's so much easier to talk about other people than to talk about ourselves, right?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So talking about grief, what are some of the ways you've seen grief manifest itself in your clients?
I think that's a pretty beautiful question. Because when we talk about that, we have to talk about diversity. We have to talk about multiculturalism. We have to talk about just the different ways that different cultures experience loss and grief. And so some people, we do see the wrenching of clothing. Some people, we do see the screaming. Some people lay over their parents' bodies and just cry. Some people go wash dishes. Some people go for a walk outside. Some people go and call their friends and talk and chat and laugh. It really just, it is so individualized of a process and so personalized, right? Some people cry, some people laugh, some people are angry, some people are sad, some people are whatever.
What I love about that explanation is that it's honest, right? And then you think about these clients that you're working with are people who in theory would have been expecting a passing, right? And so as they're still, the expectation has nothing to do with the reality when it happens. And you people can't say, people say a lot, like I've heard this, like, well, we were expecting it, but still the grieving process is there.
Yeah, I say that doesn't always make it any better.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, it doesn't. You're right. Right. Yeah, because that gets into the idea of anticipatory grief. And so it's all of those things that as our loved one is dying, those things that we think of that we're going to be missing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so important. And this is my rant about hospice in general, right? It's so important the earlier we can get in, the more services we can provide and the more we can support the families.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So some families we get a call for and they're like, hey, this person is about to be extubated. Can you get up here and get them on hospice? Our admit nurse gets up there, they sign the paperwork, and the patient dies while the nurse is still there. Right. So, I mean, luckily I'm still there and I can still offer bereavement for the family, but our social worker didn't get in. Our spiritual care coordinator didn't get to get in. Our nurses, our aides, all of our care team didn't get to go and be present with those families and go on that journey with them and help them figure out, well, what's the funeral home going to look like? What is your care plan going to look like? What are our next steps? So the earlier we can get in, the better.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people have the opposite intuition about hospice. Like they want to delay hospice coming as long as possible.
Which is really, I don't want to say detrimental, but it can be detrimental.
Yeah.
One of our community education representatives who used to work with us, a good friend of mine, she used to say that hospice is the last gift you can give to someone. Because it's about caring and not curing.
Yeah.
So we're not putting people through radiation anymore. We're not putting people through all these trials anymore. We're not making them get up and get out of bed. We're giving them space to be what they need to be. Often we see patients live longer than they probably would have if they weren't on hospice.
Yeah.
And we're actually able to, and not just live longer, but have a better quality of life.
Yeah.
Because we're in to provide comfort care and to get those medications sorted. And we have our social workers who go out to provide resources and psychosocial support. Our chaplains and spiritual care coordinators who go out and meet our clients in their religious, spiritual, or non-spiritual needs.
Yeah.
And meditate or pray or be in silence or sing together, right?
Yeah.
All these different aspects of care.
Well, and I know for people who have been, for instance, I had a loved one who was very sick for a long time. And when hospice got called and came in and started administering services, I have never seen someone be so relieved. Because it's almost like they no longer feel like they are fighting, if that makes sense. Because I think that the American healthcare system is focused around like the fight against whatever, right?
Yes.
And so at the end of it, it's like you're not necessarily like letting go, but you're not fighting anymore. And I think it can be a very peaceful place for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the goal, comfort and peace.
100%.
And do you think people use that phrase like, well, they were sick for a long time, like it wasn't a surprise, as almost like a shield for themselves, so that they're telling themselves like it was okay, like we knew this was gonna happen, like I'm not sad, like I'm fine.
Yeah, we call that a survival technique, right? We have our coping skills and we have our survival techniques.
Grant's like, we diagnose you.
They both serve us in different times. And no, I do not, because we do not pathologize grieving.
Well, I would, and I'm not a professional.
Until later. Definitely, people, we have these walls that we build, right? Because we're hurt and we don't want to be hurt again. Don't you dare. My cat's about to jump up here.
Do it, Kovu.
Yeah, we don't want to be hurt. We're afraid of being hurt, right?
Yeah.
But kind of what I was talking about earlier, when we dig into the trauma, we do get hurt again so that we can learn how to heal better, right? When a bone breaks, we have to re-break it to reset it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Grieving is no different, right? Mental health is no different. Sometimes you need a cast, be that medication, be that intensive therapy, be that inpatient treatment. Sometimes we just need a little extra support, some crutches to help us move forward.
I'm sure that you've heard about like ambiguous loss, right? And for listeners, it's like a loss that occurs without like a closure or like clear understanding and purpose. I think that is usually the case, but people don't know that it's like called that certain thing. Have you ever realized like a friend or a patient or a client was suffering from that specific thing before? And if you have, like, how do you help them realize that there's not always an answer.
Oh, my favorite phrase is to say, I don't have a magic wand. I can't just wave it and make all this disappear. This is going to take a lot of work, but I'm here to support you through that work. The way I talk about grief and loss and the way I kind of conceptualize it and try to help people conceptualize is that, and this is not entirely my own, I've adapted it a little bit, but a mentor from undergrad gave me this. When grief happens, and grief, like y'all have alluded to, grief can happen from anything. Okay, I'm going to get into a little bit of a history lesson and then come back to...
Do it, yeah.
We love a history lesson.
And then I'll come back to the idea, how I conceptualize grief. So the history lesson, we always just associated grief and loss around someone dying, right? We didn't really attribute that to other types of loss. And so in the 40s, I want to say 42, 43, but I should have looked this up. In Boston, this is true. In Boston, it was called the Coconut Grove disaster, and an apartment complex caught fire and burned down. So all of the residents lost something, either a life, a friend, a neighbor, objects, parts of their body, their mental health. Everyone lost something. So that's when we really started, the psychological community started refocusing grief and loss and expanding that idea, mainly with the help of a gentleman, Lindemann, and another gentleman, Adler. So as we're going through this, we start recognizing that it's not just around the loss of a person. And then ambiguous loss, Jess, that you were talking about was by Dr. Ross, Dr. Pauline Ross in the 70s, right? When she coined that phrase. And that is just like you said, to talk about those ideas of like, something's wrong, but I can't, where's my pinpoint, right? So my practice as a therapist, I'm Gestalt informed and narrative therapy informed. So that's literally just looking at how we interact with our bodies and how we bring awareness to what's going on inside of us. And then how we talk about that, what stories we tell ourselves and how we can reframe those stories and those narratives that are no longer serving us. Kubler-Ross and her stages of grief, right? We now know that they are not linear. They are, in fact, you can be at any point at any time and fill your loops up with anything.
Right.
We're kind of still going through those, right? So even if it's a caregiver who has now lost their independence because they've moved in with a family member to care for them full time. Yes.
Exactly.
So what does that look like? What does your new normal look like? How can we integrate that and still remain authentic to you as you change what your life looks like? And that's grief. We have this hole, right? When we lose something or someone, we fall into this hole. The depth of the hole kind of depends on the relationship, on the dynamics, how you process it in the past, so many different things, right? So we fall into this hole and we're looking around and all we can see is black. And then one day we look directly up and we see this little tiny light and we have a goal, okay? But how do we get up there? We start building a ladder. So we start using our tools and our tips and our tricks and our interventions and our people and our social networks and our whatever you got going for you, those survival skills even, right? To start building that ladder and to start climbing out. And it's step by step and moment by moment, not even day by day sometimes. And sometimes you're going to slip down the ladder. Sometimes some ladder pieces are going to break. Sometimes you're going to have to use a new different kind of lumber and a new different kind of wood, whatever, maybe some metal at some points that really needs to be reinforced. And you just keep going and you take step by step and you're going to be bloodied and you're going to be bruised and you're going to be hurt, but you're going to get to the top one day and you're going to look out and maybe you're not ready to come out yet. So you kind of go back in just a little bit. But then you poke your head back out, maybe put one foot out, bring back in, put one foot out, put the other foot out, and then take a step up. And then you found yourself back in life, right? And as you're looking, you see that life has been going in every direction around you still. So then you start walking. You start walking with life. And you start getting your support system to walk beside you. And you start getting those who are around you and your coping skills. And you keep walking, right? And then you're going to look back and see that on the landscape of your life and that hole that was there is still going to be there. But now you're able to use it to fill with memories and joy and those sadness and the important bits of life. So that hole never leaves us. So how do we start integrating that pit into our life? And that's kind of my conceptual framework of grief. How do we integrate what is going to be there forever into what's next?
Yeah. Just
Wow.
another question, of course. I'm like, what about when you see clients or patients come out of that hole, are they then at times hit with like guilt for being better, for feeling better? Is that like another part of the process where they're like, I feel bad that I'm alive and now I have to go back and I'm definitely going down like 10 levels in this hole.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have to work with my patients on sometimes, and my clients and my people, is a reminder that it's okay to be selfish. That being selfish is not bad. Being selfish is sometimes taking care of yourself, right? And part of being selfish is building boundaries and building healthy relationships with people. And when you make those boundaries, it's showing that you care about a relationship. You care about it enough to keep it going, right?
Yeah.
And so guilt is going to span over the entire process of anticipatory grief all the way through new normal, right? And so we've got to figure out how to, first of all, it was, I didn't do enough. I wasn't there enough. I didn't say the right things. I didn't. And then we move into that idea that you were talking about of, oh, wait, I had a good day. I can't have a good day.
Yeah.
That means that I'm not remembering Sue or whatever. And so figuring out and helping people reinforce and building those affirmations and building those positive statements about the self and building your self-confidence to say, I can have a good day and that's okay. I can have a good moment and that's okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean
that permission.
Just out of sheer self-preservation, right?
Yes. Again, like sometimes you just gotta do you, honey.
Yeah. I feel like we're in a joint recorded therapy session right now.
I've never loved anything more in my life. I'm like, you are speaking directly to me.
I'm learning so much for myself.
Good.
Same.
Oh, I'm so glad.
My God. I want to talk about you for a second specifically. This is, I'm going to guess, from an outsider perspective, very emotionally labor intensive for you. Number one, how does working in grief affect your mental health, and how do you take care of yourself?
Hospice is not a calling. Healthcare is not a calling. We are not there to posit ourselves at power dynamics. We are not there to posit ourselves as a savior. Yeah. We are not there to posit ourselves as someone who is there to help. We are there to be present and to support the families in those just vulnerable moments, right? So when I started shifting the focus away from my needs as a therapist, and I know this sounds counterintuitive, but it became, I didn't find satisfaction through doing the work. I found satisfaction through what my clients produced.
Yeah.
Right. So now I can walk away from a session and say, that was so sad.
Yeah.
That was so heart-wrenching. I am sitting in my car and crying, but the spouse told me that's everything that she needed. Or the mother told me that she was able to hold and dance with her daughter in their last moments together. And now that her daughter is gone, she is able to have that memory forever, right? So it's not about me in so many different ways. It's about living that human experience together. So I was able to take that and start compounding on it and start learning what compassion means, right? For me. So there's sympathy, empathy, and compassion. Sympathy is feeling for, empathy is feeling with, and compassion is an activated
Not me and
feeling.
Sydney crying.
Literally, please.
Literally.
Honey, tears are just love overflowing. It's okay.
Woof. I'm going to just turn my brightness down so you can't see how red my face is.
Okay. Sweet angel.
Keep going. Okay. Keep going.
For me, I have to practice within compassion. Sympathy isn't enough. Sympathy is saying, oh, that sucks. I'm sorry you're dealing with that. Yeah. Empathy You
Yeah.
go there with someone, you cannot do that.
Mhm.
Compassion has boundaries. Compassion says, I feel for you and I feel with you. This is what I can provide. I talk about it, here's another metaphor. I talk about it as a race in the desert. Okay. You have never prepared for this race. You are not going through
Facts.
marathon training. You are not putting your shoes on. You are not doing your stretches. You're not doing calisthenics, right? Why would you try to run a race with someone? Why would you go on that race with them? Sympathy, I'm not doing enough if I'm just sitting on the sidelines.
Mhm.
I'm not doing enough if I'm sitting on the bleacher saying, wow, it's hot out here, right?
Yeah.
Empathy, I haven't trained for that. But I'm running it with you. I'm doing my best to keep up. That's pure sign of compassion fatigue. Burnout, boom, you're done, right?
Yeah.
Heat stroke.
But compassion, I can stand at the halfway mark and say, hey, here's some water, here's a
Yes.
gummy.
Yeah.
You've got this,
Mm.
right? Do you need to stay here and take a breath for a second?
Yeah.
Do you need to take a little walk from here? Okay. And then getting to the finish line in my car, getting to the finish line and saying, you did it. Congrats. Here's some more water. Here's a
Yeah.
gummy. Here's a wet towel. What else do you need?
That's a really good analogy.
Good. Hold it. Embrace it. Use it in your lives because you can't walk that walk with everyone.
Yeah.
So on top of that, when my clients pass away, I have a ritual for myself. And then whenever I come into my house, my name tag does not come in with me. That's very important for me to have a physical boundary of saying, I am Grant, music therapist, bereavement counselor. This is my name badge. Pull into this name badge and keep it here. And then I put it on a shelf, or I put it by the door, so that when I come into my house and in my space, it is mine and it doesn't belong to someone else because it doesn't need to.
When you think about mental health in general, as a therapist and someone sitting in that kind of place, what are your concerns? Maybe not individually, but like as a public, as community, what are your concerns for mental health?
We don't share enough about it. It's stigmatized, and not just personally, not just socially, but systemically stigmatized, right? We have a lot of different factors that say you are not good enough if you are suffering, right? So my advice again is just that to advocate for yourself. And I know it's hard. I know it's terrifying. I know that it's scary, but you have to do it. Right? There are some times when you can be strong. There are some times when you can be quote unquote weak. Now is a time to be strong for yourself, right? Now is a time to seek that help. You do not have to be an island. Even if everyone in your life has deserted you, that will not be your experience in every situation. It can't be, because of the different types of people we have in this world, right? And that isolation, without reaching out, without connecting, without the communication, the systemic isolation, the self-imposed isolation, whatever the case is, it's so detrimental to us, right? We as people have to be interconnected. We as people have to be infused with one another. Even introverts need to be, right? Whoever we are, we need a person. We need a bubble. We need a sphere. We need our people.
In that same vein, have there been changes in mental health and wellness that excite you, especially since you first started studying mental health? What are some changes that you love?
Not a happy
dance from Grant. Listen, I am so excited because for a few reasons, right? We're seeing a lot more trends to therapists recognizing that we cannot remain apolitical, right? There's a way to do that within a therapy session. Absolutely. Right. But we need that critical ideology. We need feminist ideology. We need multicultural ideology. And we're seeing that in therapeutic spaces. We're seeing therapists calling their senators. We're seeing therapists calling to enact change and to share their stories and to say, hey, this House bill doesn't work for us. what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right. And not just for
Yeah.
us, but for our clients.
Good.
Right. So we're seeing more advocacy. We're seeing more integration. We're seeing an increase along that same line, an increased understanding of the impact of multiculturalism and racial trauma. Right. We're seeing the effect of systemic issues on Black bodies. We're seeing the effect of interpersonal and day-to-day relationships, and acknowledging that for our people of color and our LGBT children and adults and all of our different minority groups, right? And through activism and through education, we're seeing a lot more, and partially because of social media, right? We're able to open those lines of communication. We're able to educate people, and we're able to show them that I just said it's important to have a bubble, but sometimes you have to get out of your bubble, right? So we're seeing more focusing and more shifts to directly focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, including increasing accessibility, including outreach to our underserved and ostracized communities. And then, I mean, even just telehealth, right? We're seeing so much more access and accessibility and affordability through telehealth services.
You have been super generous with your time, and we thank you. You're a beautiful person that we've known for a really long time and have respected as a person and as a friend, but also now as a professional too.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate you sharing your time with us. And our last question is something that we've been asking all of our guests. How do you take your coffee?
Listen, I'm gay, so I like my cold brew black.
Yeah.
Like my soul. Go on.
Like my soul. Yes. No, but for real, I was really thinking about this question. And coffee for me, I used to be a barista, and coffee for me has always been a craft and a moment. So from the grinding of the beans to the steeping to the pouring to the just holding the handle and putting my other hand on the mug, the warmness that creeps in, right? It really just makes me think of laughter and harmony and our shared experience as people and how we can warm each other, coming together in just like the most simple of ways.
Love that.
So I like my coffee with my people.
So nice.
That's beautiful.
But I do drink it black.
That's beautiful. And the most perfect answer from an angel.
The most perfect person. Yeah.
Literally.
My gosh, y'all. Thank you so much for having me today. I had a dream about this the other night. I was like, I'm gonna be on that. And I'm so ready.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Like, the person you've become is amazing, and you're incredible, and we're obsessed with you, if that isn't clear already.
Y'all too. Thank you so much for doing the hard work of getting out those stories and telling people and educating the community and advocating for the people that you speak about, and for all of the professionals that y'all get on. Y'all are brilliant.
Well, we will link your LinkedIn in our show notes, and when you get on Psychology Today, we put you on there too, and all of the organizations that Grant mentioned will be linked here so that you can take a peek at what he cares about. And if you have any questions for us and you want to follow up with Grant through us, just DM us, email us, and we will share that with him.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Bye-bye. Thank you. Toodaloo.
Yay, thank you.
Talk to y'all soon.